Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hare Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
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 Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita.
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 Shirum Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha.
Guru Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shirum Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha.
Guru Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Very famous architecture, one of the classic architectural images of Vrindavan town. We're not going to explain everything here because although it's ideal, this is now under the control of the government. So the government, we came here earlier and said, may we have kata? And they said no. So we came back and made an arrangement with the new Madan Mohan temple, and then they said okay. But who knows? No, okay. Can we come again? No. Dharmendra? Dharmendra? So just some of the visual points which we'll explain later. We're on top of a big hill. We mentioned yesterday at Kaliyagat, Dasha Aditya Tila, place where Krishna came. This was a hill and many suns came to shine and make Krishna warm. Again, after so long in the Jamuna River. You sure we can't do here? They said no, then they said okay. Is there going to be a problem? Yeah. But not long. Because there'll be a problem if you do longer. You expect. They'll come and say, so there was a lake at the bottom of this hill that's now just a grassy area. But when I first came here, there was a nice little lake. That was the lake where the perspiration from Krishna with the 10 suns upon his body made a big lake at the bottom of the hill. Then we walked up so many steps. This is the original Madan Mohan temple, where there was a kirtan hall and prasadam hall over here. And we saw the bhajan kutir of Sanatan Goswami. Before the temple existed, that's where Sanatan Goswami had his bhajan kutir. Right next to the bhajan kutir, you saw a well. Very important part of Sanatan Goswami's, or Madan Mohan's Leela was Sanatan Goswami. In Vrindavan, as mentioned before, water is not so potable. You notice from the tap, if you're brushing your teeth, it's... So, in this well is pure drinking water. At least before the water table got so many other yucky things in it. So Sanatan Goswami would regularly take water from that well. That was arranged by Madan Mohan himself. We'll describe in detail, not here. We're going to go now down another set of stairs and around over here along this alleyway over to the Samadhi Mandir of Sanatan Goswami, and there are samadhis of others who we'll describe when we get there. And then we'll have extended kata, hopefully, at the new Madan Mohan temple that's not under the government control, and they're very friendly, and we can be there as long as we like. So just the high points of where we are. Look at the detail of the architecture. This is the red sandstone of classic Vrindavan architecture. The dome at the top was dismantled, but large amount of the architecture does remain in nice condition. We'll now go together down and around over here and to Sanatan Goswami's Samadhi Mandir. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji. The deities are not the original Madan Mohan deities. They are called Pratibhu deities, meaning when Madan Mohan were taken from Vrindavan along with many deities, replacement deities were later installed, which are spiritually non-different but not the original Madan Mohan form. We will see those forms of the original Madan Mohan temple when we go to Jaipur. When we go to Karoli. Wonderful story connected with they're moving from here to Jaipur, from Jaipur to Karoli. Hare Krishna.
The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotional service within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end. He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasad, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis, who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari, Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
I think you can all hear wherever you might be. We're going to stay here only very briefly, but I just want to point out where things are so that when we speak about them, you can have a mental impression of them. This is the Samadhi Mandir of Sanatana Goswami. And in the far corner, there's of course many samadhis in this area. In the far corner, written in Bengali, there's a Grantha Samadhi. Grantha means scripture. I'll describe in detail, but Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami wrote such elevated scriptures that after the departure of Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, who had made it one of his so many services to create a library of the Goswami literature, he decided, as the Acharya following behind Sanatana Goswami, next in succession, because he was younger generation, like the son of Rupa and Sanatana's younger brother, Sri Vallabha, was Jiva Goswami. So Jiva Goswami decided that some of the literatures of Rupa and Sanatana were so elevated that future generations would not understand them. They would misunderstand them. And so he took certain of the literatures from the library of the Goswamis and placed in Samadhi here. Considering them sacred, he created a Samadhi. So the Samadhi Mandir of the scriptures, some of the scriptures of Rupa and Sanatana are found over here, far corner. Just on the other side of Sanatana Goswami's Mandir, there's a Pushpa Samadhi of Tapan Mishra on the left side, and the central one is Chandrasekhar. We'll describe about Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar as it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. They had a very intimate relationship with Lord Chaitanya. So their Pushpa Samadhi is just over there. And many, many great acharyas in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, their samadhis are here. So we'll offer our prayers and hear the katha when we get to a place that's going to work better for both of those things to happen. So we'll now proceed to the new Madan Mohan temple up this way and around. And they're very friendly and happy to have us come. And these devotees also, they were happy to have us come, but the group is large enough, it's not going to work well. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ji Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
We are now in Vrindavan town, which at one time was one of the 12 forests. We say Vrindavan had 12 forests, and one of the forests is Vrindavan. Because Vrindavan is the most prominent of the 12 forests. And each of these 12 forests are extremely sacred. We know this from the teaching of Rupa Goswami, that have written in Nectar of Instruction, of all holy places in the world, most holy is the area of Mathura. We say now Mathura district, and within Mathura, most sacred is the 12 forests of Vrindavan. And amongst those 12 forests of Vrindavan, the most sacred place is Govardhan. And within Govardhan, the most sacred place is Radhakund, where we will be going 2 days from now. But of the 12 forests, this Vrindavan forest is of super excellent importance for many reasons. One of them being that Brinda Devi presides over this Vrindavan forest, and it is Brinda Devi who was the queen of, and she gifted the title of queen to Radha. There's a very wonderful Leela written by Jiva Goswami, Madhav Mahotsav, where this event takes place. Brinda Devi gives the title of Queen of Vrindavan to Radha. Beautiful, beautiful drama, and Abhishek of Radha, and glorifications of Radha, and decorations of Radha, and Krishna presides over the coronation of Radha as queen. When instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatan and Rupa Goswami were sent here to Vrindavan with two main services: to establish the places of Krishna's pastimes, or re-establish them, because over a period of thousands of years their whereabouts had been lost, and Krishna Bhakti became revived by the presence of the six Goswamis, headed by Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. So there was just forests and no clear understanding of anything. We know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Lord Chaitanya came, he established where Radha Kund was. And how did he know where Radha Kund was? Because it was a place where he had his eternal Leela as Krishna. Although at the time it was just a pond of water in the middle of an agricultural field. That's what it externally looked like. And when we go to visit Radha Kund, we'll see something very different. Because through the service of the Goswamis, in the case of Radha Kund specifically, the service of Raghunath Das Goswami, he excavated Radha Kund as we see it today, or he oversaw that it would happen. We'll describe that when we go to Radha Kund. And so here, Sanatan Goswami simply resided in his bhajan kutir on top of Dwadasya Aditya Tila and did his bhajan in a solitary manner at that spot. Very, very beautiful spot. The vista of, at the time, the river Jamuna flowing below. It's nice to speak a little bit about Sanatan's, the greatness of Sanatan Goswami before he came to Vrindavan, before he became an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In one sense, became an associate. He's an eternal associate of Krishna, as each of the members of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's entourage of devotees. Each of the personalities in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela have their spiritual identity in Krishna's Leela. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami being intimate associates of Srimati Radharani in Krishna's Leela. So their spiritual identity must be remembered when describing activities that they performed. Sanatan Goswami was from a Brahmana family, a high caste Brahmana family that hailed from South India. And over several generations, the family, there was some dispute amongst the family members, so one of the family members moved from areas of South India and gradually moved their way into this part of, or to the West Bengal, now West Bengal part of India. And besides being, worldly speaking, highly educated, they were just natural leaders, Rupa and Sanatan. So much so, and Vaishnavas, so much respected by the community of devotees and the people of the area, that when the king, Nawab Hussain Shah, was ruling in the area, he could understand, in order to be an effective ruler, I need the assistance of some local people that can partner with me, that can help keep people happy so that I can rule effectively. So he approached Sanatan and Rupa Goswami and gave them a choice. The choice was, you assist me in my government affairs, or if you decline, I will harass, torture, and mutilate the devotees in this area. Think it over. Let me know what you would prefer. So they certainly didn't want to have anything to do with Nawab Hussain Shah and anything to do with the government. But for the protection of the devotees, they yielded to this intimidating challenge. And Nawab Hussain Shah gave them the position of the Prime Minister and Finance Minister, and their third brother, Sri Vallabha, became the Home Minister, the equivalent of those positions. And the kingdom of Nawab Hussain Shah represented about a third of what is India today. So imagine their position. Practically the Prime Minister of India, or a third of it, and in charge of the whole show. So, from a worldly estimation, consider what people do today to get the position of Prime Minister. How much skullduggery and name-calling of other people and politics and instructed Rupa Goswami to leave and he would remain behind and deal with Nawab Hussain Shah. Many of you know this Leela, but it's nice to hear. He stopped reporting in to the government with a notice that he was not well, he was sick. And for days and days and days and days on end, he would not come in and perform his service. The king sent a royal physician to go and examine Sanatana Goswami, found there was nothing wrong with his health. So one time, he personally came to Sanatana Goswami's residence and found in a courtyard dozens of brahmanas assembled, simply speaking from Srimad Bhagavatam and discussing spiritual topics and saying, "You're not sick. You're playing hooky here. Tell me your intention." And Sanatana Goswami said very directly, "You're the king, and you have given me some service to do which I am no longer able to perform. So you may do with me whatever you like. I am fit to be punished by you as you decide. I'll accept whatever it is." The king was very angry, but he didn't want to. He wanted to diplomatically influence Sanatana Goswami to change his mind. So he ordered that Sanatana Goswami would be put in prison. And stay in prison long enough, maybe you'll change your mind. And left. So, you know the story, but Sanatana Goswami then, very diplomatically, we could say, bribed the jailkeeper and said, "My dear, pious jailkeeper, you are such an elevated soul. You know that one gains even greater piety by setting free someone from the clutches of material existence. So surely you will get much piety if you do this kind and pious deed. Just take your keys and unlock my shackles, and I'll see that you get a pile of so many gold coins." I forget the number. 10,000, with some large number of gold coins. The jailkeeper was attracted, but said, "I'll be in big trouble with the Nawab. I won't be able to use the gold coins, he'll kill me." And Sanatana Goswami had an answer to that. He said, "You just tell him that Sanatana had to go past Stool. And so he went to the riverbank, and with all of his chains and iron on his body, he jumped into the river and drowned. I searched everywhere and couldn't find, surely he is drowned. Just tell him that. And here's another 2,000 gold coins." All right. And so he was set free. And what was his intention of being set free? He immediately sent a message to Rupa Goswami, informing him that in indirect language, so that others wouldn't understand, but the intelligence of Rupa would understand, that he left some gold coins in care of a grocer to take care of Rupa Goswami's requirements. And so Sanatana Goswami then left. And he traveled back on not normally traveled route so that he would not be found. I won't narrate the whole description, it's very lengthy. And we have a lot of places to visit here in Vrindavan. But he exhibited progressively over time, which is important for us to understand and similarly cultivate. In his pursuit of association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his attachment to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only grew And his detachment from worldly opulence also grew. Like this pan scale, one goes up and the other goes down. In one scene, he had received from his brother-in-law one very opulent chadar. Yet he was, when he came in Lord Chaitanya's association, looking like a unshaven Muslim. And he was outside the door of Lord Chaitanya's residence. Lord Chaitanya told the servant, go see who was at the door. Some Vaishnava has come. And the servant went and looked and reported back to Lord Chaitanya, there's no Vaishnava at your door. Just a Muslim mendicant. Lord Chaitanya said, bring him in. And immediately, because they're eternal associates, Lord Chaitanya knew. And immediately embraced him to his chest very warmly and held on very tightly. The liberation of Sanatana Goswami from his material affairs was arranged by Lord Chaitanya's divine influence. But Lord Chaitanya kept glancing at his opulent chadar. And Sanatana Goswami could understand just from his glance, he doesn't approve. He didn't say anything. So when he went to take his bath by the river, he saw one Bengali mendicant with his cloth, his outer garment, stretched out to dry. And he approached the mendicant and said, my dear sir, please be kind upon me and accept in charity the exchange of this chadar for yours. And the Bengali mendicant said, stop teasing, this is not nice. Why would you want to give your chadar for this torn blanket? He said, no, I'm serious. I want to kindly do this as a service for me. So he accepted, and when he returned back to Lord Chaitanya's association with the very new, opulent chadar gone, and set his torn blanket over his shoulder, Lord Chaitanya smiled and said that an expert physician, when ridding one of a disease, does not just cure the disease, but removes the last traces of the disease. That's an expert physician. So you're moving on this path of renunciation, and I was not happy seeing. You're still maintaining some vestiges of opulence. And I can understand that you are truly moving on the path of renunciation. The teaching of Lord Chaitanya, as the teaching of devotion in general holds, is Yukta Vairagya, the teaching that by engaging in devotional service, progressively one becomes detached from worldly attractions. And it's important to cultivate like that. And the life of Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami showed that from the position of the highest levels of aristocracy, Chakvaturnam Ashesha Mandala Pratikshanim, the Goswamis in general were all from very elevated positions, but they gave it up, just like insignificant detractions from the path of spiritual life, and came on the order of Lord Chaitanya to Vrindavan to live like mendicants. Their possessions were torn or discarded garments that people just rejected. And they gathered up those rejected garments and wore a simple loincloth and some outer garment and no fixed residence. As you know, here in Vrindavan, it can become in the summer very hot, and in the winter, this is a very good time to visit Kartik time. Besides spiritually, it's comfortable. In the morning, a little chilly as Kartik goes on, but as the day warms up, very nice. not extreme heat, not extreme cold. But now, when the residents those who stay in Vrindavan, the summer, so hot, and in the winter, quite cold. So there's many stone buildings, but they kept no residents in stone buildings. But just how they maintained their health, the scriptures don't describe. But except on spiritual strength, they were protected. So this area is where Sanatana Goswami resided, on top of that Dwadasya Aditya. And a very wonderful description is given of how he came to worship Madan Mohan. During the time of Maharaj Parikshit's rule as king, we've mentioned already that he established the great-grandson of Krishna as Vajranabha, as the king of Vrindavan, Mathura Vrindavan. And he established many deities. One of them is Madan Mohan. There are three principal deities, Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and Radha Gopinath. So he established those three deities personally. Later, those three deities became explained by Lord Chaitanya as deities that would preside, or are the presiding deities eternally, over the three main subject matters found within the Vedas. Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya Gyan, Prayojana Gyan. Madan Mohan is the presiding deity of Sambandha Gyan. So Vajranabha established that deity, Madan Mohan deity originally, and we'll see that deity that Vajranabha created, beautiful deity, when we go to Karoli 1 week from today. Over the years, the deity was lost. The whereabouts of the deity was unknown. But before Lord Chaitanya came, Advaita Acharya, prior to Lord Chaitanya's appearance, because Advaita Acharya was a great Vaishnava, and he came and resided here in Vrindavan for some time. In fact, where he resided and did his bhajan is very close to where we are right now, just at the bottom of the hill, and make a right-hand turn, and he's Advaita Vat, a tree under which Advaita resided. And while residing there, he found the original Madan Mohan deity. And he worshipped the Madan Mohan deity himself, personally, Advaita Acharya. And then when it was time for him to return back to Shantipur and Navadvip, he entrusted that deity to a local Brahmin, whose name was Purushottam Chobe. And Purushottam Chobe was a very pure Vaishnava. And by the time Sanatana Goswami came here, living on top of this hill, he would, from time to time, perform Madhukari. Madhukari is he would go from house to house and accept alms. And as he was performing Madhukari in one area of Vrindavan, he went, unknowing who Purushottam Chobe was, he went to his home. The night before Sanatana Goswami went there, Purushottam Chobe had a dream in which the deity appeared and spoke to him and said, "Tomorrow a sadhu will come to accept alms. I want to be worshipped by that sadhu. You please gift me to him. I want to go with him and be worshipped." So when Sanatana Goswami came to his door, Purushottam Chobe immediately paid his obeisances flat before Sanatana Goswami. "The Lord has sent you," was the greeting. And Sanatana Goswami said, "What do you mean the Lord has sent me?" That I had this dream that my deity, Madan Mohan, wants you to worship him. So please accept. This is the will of the Lord. And Sanatana Goswami was in conflict, because how could he say no to the will of the Lord, but how could he say yes? He explained it's not possible. I don't have anything. I don't have any residence. I don't have any means for worshiping the deity. I don't have any qualification either. I can't say yes. He was very conflicted in his heart. He left. But it was not resolved, because he came back to Purushottam Chobi's home the next day and said, I don't know what to do, because I have this, the Lord has made this request, but I have no means. And the deity spoke, saying, it's all right. You don't have to offer me anything special. But I dry attar, I don't even have a stove. I can't make anything. But the system at the time, common, was rather than making chapatis rolled with a rolling pin, they would just make balls, mix the flour with water and put it in a fire, and that was their meal. That's all I have. That's all right. And I don't have an altar for you. That's all right. Please. So, what can Sanatana Goswami do? He accepted the worship of Madan Mohan. And perhaps you've seen pictures. Instead of an altar, he kept Madan Mohan in a tree, just like hanging in a cloth from the branch of the tree. That was the altar. Because he was a mendicant. He had nothing. Then I don't know if you noticed, but at the Samadhi Mandir and at the Bhajan Kutir, both, there's a picture, a very famous classic picture where the deity of Madan Mohan is there, and Sanatana Goswami is offering his chapati, but in a chapati ball. And his hand is extended, and the deity then spoke to Sanatana, at least can't you put a little salt? I told you I don't have any facility. What can I do? I'm a mendicant. I can take you back to Purushottam Chobi. He has salt. No, it's okay. But it was the Lord's desire, explicitly spoken to Sanatana Goswami, very famous exchange. And so Sanatana Goswami was pondering how to do this. I'm a mendicant. How can I worship a deity if I have poverty? So, as fate would have it, one merchant from Delhi was heading with a boatload of salt to go pay a visit, to sell his wares at Mathura or Agra or something. And as he was passing along the river Jamuna, his boat got stuck on a sand dune. And so he didn't know what to do. He tried this, tried that, and nothing would free the boat from the sand dune. So he got off the boat and went to the shore and asked the locals what to do. And one local said, well, there's one very elevated sadhu. Maybe if he gives his blessings, something nice will happen. So he came. He pointed the direction, because the river Jamuna was very close by. He came to the top of the hill and paid his respects to Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami said, by the grace of Madan Mohan, anything can happen. You offer some service to him, and something wonderful, I assure you. Because by the grace of the Lord, all good things can happen. So, because of the purity of Sanatana Goswami, this individual's name was Ram Das Kapoor. He felt in his heart that this would take place. So he offered his respects to Sanatana Goswami and wanted to give him some contribution, some gift, some dakshina. And he reached in his pocket to get some money. There was no money, there was just a little envelope with some salt. So he offered the salt, he offered what he had. That little seva for Madan Mohan proved to be a very significant seva, because when he went back to his boat, miraculously the boat became freed from the sand dune. And then as he traveled and brought the salt, because if there was some extended delay, the price of salt had increased, and he got much more than he had expected to get back from the sale of the salt. So he felt very inspired by the association he had with Sanatana Goswami and decided he would give everything from the sale of the salt to Sanatana Goswami. When he came back and made that offer to Sanatana Goswami, he said, what do I need? I'm in the renounced order of life. So, if you like, you can build a temple for Madan Mohanji. So Ram Das Kapoor built this very large temple. Sanatana Goswami stayed underneath the tree where he was, and Madan Mohan went into the temple. Beautiful architecture, beautiful structure. That temple was completed in 1570 by our Western calendar. And Madan Mohan was without Radha. So there's another narration that connects with this. After, or around the time of Madan Mohan being worshipped by Sanatana Goswami, just after that, Radha Govinda, or Govindaji, was discovered by Rupa Goswami. We'll narrate that when we go to the Govindaji temple. The son of Prataparudra Maharaj, whose name, if I can recall correctly, is Purushottam Maharaj. Purushottam Jena, he wanted to make some service for Madan Mohan and Radha Govinda. And so he made Radha deities. Remember this discussion that we had? That the understanding of the Goswamis is that within the heart of Krishna is Radha. So when worshipping Govindaji or worshipping Madan Mohan, you're worshipping Radha Krishna. That was the understanding. But the son of Prataparudra Maharaj felt that while Goswamis understand this, people in general may not understand this, and so if Radha was worshipped along with Krishna, that would be very nice. So with their permission, he made Radha deities for both Madan Mohan and Govindaji. Then there was a dream in which the deity, the pujari of the Madan Mohan temple, had a dream where the deity of Radha appeared in his dream and said that these two Radhas, well, one of them is Radha, but the other is Lalita. And Lalita belongs by the side of Radha. Can you make that arrangement? And because the pujari was so pure, everyone just accepted the dream is fact. And so the Radha deity of Govindaji was brought here. So on the altar, there's Radha and Krishna and Lalita. So then there's another story which we'll narrate when we get to the Govindaji temple of how the Radha deity of Govindaji manifested. Stay tuned. So Radha, Madan Mohan, and Lalita Devi. Now when Sanatana Goswami was residing, we understand he didn't only stay here. We're going to be visiting some other places where Sanatana Goswami had bhajan kutirs. One of them is by Nandagram, by Pavan Sarovar. His samadhi, his bhajan kutir, one of his bhajan kutirs was there, very near to where also Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami had a bhajan kutir, where some of their writing was done. And towards the end of Sanatana Goswami's life, he kept his bhajan kutir by Radha Kund. We'll see that place. And Sanatana Goswami lived to be about 80 years old. Although he had his bhajan kutir at different places, he would move about throughout all of Braja. And one of the significant contributions or services that he did was, imagine the Prime Minister of India becoming a mendicant and living in Braja. What kind of relationship he had with everybody. He was like everyone's father and spiritual master and dearmost friend, and everything rolled into one. He would travel from village to village, spending one afternoon, evening in the village, and just meeting with everybody in the village, and was intimately involved in the Brijvasis' lives. He would ask one person, how were your crops this year? Another, has your daughter been married yet? Another is, there's a newborn child in your family, very nice, have you given a name? How are your financial dealings? And he was just caring like a loving father for everybody. And he was materially so gifted, so had such acumen that he could understand exactly what the right thing to do was. If there was some dispute in some village, Sanatana Goswami's pronouncement would be it. It's over. Because he had the faith of everybody. He was sustaining and uplifting the spiritual lives of the whole of Braja. When he would enter into a place, the next village, because, we're driving through villages, and this village and that village, and we don't even know what the names are because we're zooming by in our little cars or buses. But he would live with the Brijvasis. So as he would enter, it was their spiritual master, their father, their well-wisher, their dearmost friend was coming to their village, and they would be waiting at the edge of the village to receive him and honor him, and he would just generously give his association to all and spend the evening having katha with everyone and chanting the holy names with them, and spend the night at someone's home, and then the next morning off he would go. And with great separation, seeing him to the edge of the village, wishing that he would stay, but knowing he had his service to do. In this way, he was literally sustaining the lives, the spiritual lives and well-being of the residents of Braja. But he also had his very strict sadhana that he would perform. In his elder stage of life, he decided to live as Raghunath Das Goswami was doing, to reside by Radha Kund. Chakaleshwar Mahadev, we'll see the place where Sanatana Goswami's bhajan kutir was. And he had the practice of doing Govardhan Parikrama every day. We're going to do it one day. And you'll feel what's like on your feet and legs and rest of your body. And he was 80 years old. Maybe young people won't feel, but 80 years old. Anyone here 80 years old? Nobody here 80 years old. 80 years old. The whole And there's an inner Govardhan Parikrama and there's an outer Govardhan Parikrama. He did the outer Govardhan Parikrama every day, chanting 2 lakhs of rounds a day. As he was getting older, Krishna was very concerned. And Krishna came before him and indicated, Sanatana Goswami, you don't need to do this anymore. But as Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, the regulative principles of the vows and the sadhana, the practices of Sanatana Goswami, were like lines in stone. There's so many stones with carvings, like lines in this unchanging, unswerving. And so Krishna indicated, you don't need to do this anymore. And Sanatana Goswami said, I must. I've taken this vow. How can I not maintain a vow? So Krishna then said, I will take this Rohit, I will take this Shalagram Shila, Govardhan Shila. Krishna placed his foot on the Govardhan Shila, and the Govardhan Shila melted. There was an impression of Krishna's foot in the Govardhan Shila. And Krishna said, you just circumambulate this Govardhan Shila 7 times. It will be the equivalent of the entire Govardhan Parikrama. And Krishna went away. So Sanatana Goswami took this as an order from Krishna to do. And so he maintained his Parikrama in that way. And he gave up his body at that Bhajan Kutir at Radhakund. And so the residents of Vrindavan, in a grand procession, took the body of Sanatana Goswami with massive kirtan back to Vrindavan town and established his Samadhi Mandir here, where we just visited. In the courtyard are the Samadhi Mandirs of many, including Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya. Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya had intimate association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sanatana Goswami understood the affection that Lord Chaitanya had for them. So their Samadhi Mandirs are also here, and the Grantha Samadhi, which I already mentioned. Again, the writings of Sanatana and Rupa, they were empowered. Just briefly describe. How could Sanatana and Rupa Goswami describe pastimes of Krishna that we do not find in the revealed scriptures? And here's the answer. The key to the answer is found in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's rendering of Sri Brahma Samhita. The commentary of Sri Brahma Samhita was written by Jiva Goswami in Sanskrit, and Bhaktisiddhanta, based upon Jiva Goswami's translation, wrote his commentary on Sri Brahma Samhita. And in that commentary, it's described that there are 2 types of appearances of Krishna. One is scheduled incarnations of the Lord, where he performs Leela, and then record of that Leela has been written. Another is called Sarasaki, where in deep stages of devotional trance, chanting, just think about what the quality of our chanting is compared to the following. Such absorption in the holy name that complete, there's a sequence. Nama, Rupa Guna Leela. This is described in Harinam Chintamani, the last chapter by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that in sequence, absorption in the name discloses the form, discloses the qualities, discloses the Leela. The Leelas of the Lord become enacted within the heart of a transcendental devotee. In Bhakti Ratnakar, there is this description, just to give us an idea, that one time Sanatana Goswami was chanting the holy name with such absorption that pastimes of the Lord were being enacted within his heart. Exchanges of love between Radha and Krishna and the gopis were appearing within his heart. In the course of that Leela, there was some funny exchange, humorous exchange between Radha and Krishna. And because this was on the platform of the soul that was being enacted, Sanatan, as an observer, felt that humor and laughed, and his body externally laughed, but it was going on a spiritual level. So as he was laughing externally, chanting, and suddenly some laughter came, just at that time a very elderly Brahmana was moving by, slowly. And because his body was infirm, he wasn't moving very evenly, he was clumsily moving. And the Brahmana thought that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. Why is this Rupa Goswami laughing at an old sadhu who can't walk properly? This is not right. He was hurt, or feeling hurt. So Rupa, the sage then went to Sanatana Goswami, or the Brahmana went to Sanatana Goswami and said, I'm very hurt, I'm very disturbed. This thing happened. And he described the incident. And Sanatana Goswami said, let me find out from Rupa what the situation is. I'll let you know. The Brahmana left. Sanatana Goswami was then visited by Rupa Goswami, who said that very strange thing happened. I was absorbed in chanting of the holy name, and wonderful pastimes of Radha Krishna were appearing in my heart. And all of a sudden, at a very humorous moment of those pastimes, the meditation broke. And I tried, and I couldn't resume that meditation. Knowingly, Sanatana Goswami explained the reason why. Because although you made no offense, the Brahmana thought when you were laughing at him. And because he was feeling that you made an offense, Krishna did not appear in your heart. Vaishnava aparad is very serious. Even thinking that such a thing could happen. So, immediately, Rupa knew what to do. Sanatana instructed, you go to the Brahmana, fall at his feet. You're the senior most Vaishnava, but fall at his feet, explain the situation, and surely he'll be forgiven. And everything will be all right. Seek the forgiveness of one who feels that you have offended them. And so Sanatana Rupa immediately went to the Brahmana and explained the situation. The Brahmana was mortified. I'm the offender, not you. I was thinking an elevated soul like you is making this offense. That's my offense. One who accuses another of offense wrongly is an offender. Or even thinks in that way. Very serious business. Vaishnava aparad. One should be very careful. So this gives an indication of how deep was the affairs of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Through their chanting of the holy name, the pastimes of the Lord would be enacted within their heart. And they would disclose these pastimes in their writings to the world. It's not the imaginative writing of a poet that would, let's see, would think of something interesting and write something interesting out of imagination. Not like that. They're confidential disclosures of Krishna's eternal pastimes because of the immense qualification of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Such were the literatures that Jiva Goswami, some of those literatures were put in samadhi because the exchanges of Radha and Krishna, worldly people don't have a clue. They'll think mundane, not mundane. So such is the life of Sanatana Goswami, that amongst the 6 Goswamis, he was considered as the eldest, the senior most. Now, not only by his age, but also by his spiritual stature. He held the respect of everyone, of all the devotees, all the Brijbasis, and all the followers of Lord Chaitanya. All accepted him in that way. Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo. Even the Adhira personalities respected Sanatana Goswami in that way. Rupa Goswami, because of being the younger brother, accepted Sanatana Goswami, and he puts it right in his literature. My spiritual master, Sanatana Goswami, is his brother. He accepted him in that way. But at the same time, the very special empowerment that Lord Chaitanya gave to Rupa Goswami, when you read our disciplic succession, although they're brothers, Rupa Goswami is the succeeding Acharya to Lord Chaitanya. Although by his humility, Rupa Goswami accepted Sanatana Goswami as his spiritual master. This should be very instructive to us about how important humility is in a life cultivating a life of devotion to Krishna, following the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the example of our 6 Goswamis. So we'll be visiting a number of places where just amazing history is behind, just looking at this, besides the structures. Why such magnificent structures? Because the personalities behind them are the topmost personalities of the spiritual world, coming in the line of Lord Chaitanya to assist us to make spiritual progress to that goal. The gift that Lord Chaitanya wanted to give comes through these personalities. So let us offer our prayers to Sanatana Goswami, that the humility, the fixity of our practices and devotion, our pure desire to simply serve the will of Lord Chaitanya and Madan Mohan, the giver of clear realization of our relationship with Krishna, by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, can be advanced by our visit here to his place of bhajan and samadhi and worship. Let our hearts become endowed by his mercy with some of that gift that he has come to give. If our hearts are open, we can receive that. In sacred places, the mood and the mercy of that person is to be found. So let us pray for that mercy from them. Srila Sanatana Goswami, Radha Madan Mohan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Would chant his japa by the Imli tree, Lord Nityananda would come here and similarly perform chanting. So this is one of the temples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We read about their 64 temples. Gaudiya Matas is one of those. He's of Gornatai, and a sacred place where Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda would personally come and perform his chanting. Well, because Lord Nityananda remained here in Vrindavan for something like 12 years. And it looks like this is perhaps the table on which Lord Nityananda would sit and perform his chanting. Because, as you could see just outside, when we go back out again, the Jamuna was flowing. And sitting by the side of the Jamuna River, overlooking in this sacred area, where Krishna and the gopis would perform their rasa dance in that same mood, appreciating the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. Lord Nityananda would sit in anticipation of Lord Chaitanya's beginning his Sankirtan movement, when spiritually he understood that those pastimes had begun. He then left Vrindavan and went to Navadvip. A very sacred place of Lord Nityananda's pastimes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Gaur Premanandi. We're at a very sacred place, and I'd like to describe the significance of it. A little bit of distraction going on either side of us, but we'll do our best. It's a very nice depiction up here in the corner of Sanatana Goswami being received by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he escaped the service of Nawab Hussain Shah and joined Lord Chaitanya's association. In 2 days we're going to go to Radha Kund. We described at the Madan Mohan temple, Lord Chaitanya's discovering this Radha Kund in the midst of an agricultural field, some pond of water that he spiritually understood was the sacred place of Radha Kund. Thank you. So this is another place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would regularly come. What is our understanding of who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's Krishna, but Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani. by the mercy of Sarup Damodar Goswami, we understand that Radha and Krishna, although in two forms, they're one entity. They're very beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna. Sarup Damodar has disclosed in Chaitanya Charitamrita that while their forms are two, their existence is one. Like the energetic and the energy. The absolute truth is Krishna, and the internal potency of Krishna is Srimati Radharani, and so their forms are eternally manifest as two, but actually their existence is one. However, for the pastime of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, to experience the love that Srimati Radharani has for him, the happiness that she experiences within that love for him, and how she experiences the qualities of Krishna. That subjective experience of Srimati Radharani was made possible by Krishna accepting the luster, duty, and the emotion or bhav of Radha. So who is Lord Chaitanya? Krishna and Radha in one form. Krishna and Radha in two forms. Krishna and Radha in one form are the same. So we can say Lord Chaitanya is not different than Krishna. More precisely, Radha and Krishna is no different than Lord Chaitanya. Very deep understanding. And the pastime that is demonstrating that fact took place here at Imlital. Imlital is a place that was a very favorite place of Srimati Radharani. Listen carefully to the Leela, it's very wonderful. Later today we're going to go to Vangsivat. Vangsivat is one of the places where during the spring season Krishna would hold Rasa Leela. Later when we go to Govardhan Hill, we'll pass by Rasastali, where Krishna would perform Rasa Leela during the full moon night of the autumn season, Sharat season. Different seasons, different moods. Transcendental emotion, slightly variegated in difference, but the particular Leela represented here in this place is from the Vangsivat Rasa Leela, another Rasa Stali here in Vrindavan. In fact, this whole area where we're about to enter is called Sevakunj, where the Radha Damodar temple, where we're going next, is in the larger area, Sevakunj. Walled in is a remaining portion, Sevakunj, but the whole area was where the rasa dance of Radha and Krishna would be performed. So, we know from the Bhagavatam, at one point during Rasa Leela, Radha could understand the desire of Krishna. That while Krishna was dancing with many, many gopis, he actually desired to be with Radha alone. And so Radha left the association of the rasa dance. And when Krishna detected that Radha had gone, he became alarmed, disturbed, eager to seek out Radha's association. He left the rasa dance to seek Radha. And everywhere he looked, he couldn't find Radha. So he came here, to this location, under this imli tree, and he sat in a mood of separation from Radha. And as he sat absorbed in this mood of separation from Radha, his sham complexion changed to a golden complexion like that of Srimati Radharani. So when Radha, knowing that Krishna wanted to be with her, was also looking for Krishna, she found him sitting under this tree and was amazed to see, instead of his blackish form, he was in a golden feature. So Radha came and sat by Krishna's side and asked Krishna, what is the meaning of this complexion that you're showing? And Krishna smilingly explained to Radha that in the following yuga, I will appear in your luster, just like you're seeing me now, in the same mood of your feeling separation from me in love. It's very deep. So similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to Vrindavan and spent just 3 months here in Vrindavan, as he was longing to come and stay in Vrindavan. From the first day that he was initiated by Ishwara Puri in Gaya, during his earlier Leela, before his initiation by Ishwara Puri, the Leela of Mahaprabhu was that of Nimai Pandit, a very proud, arrogant, argumentative logician, scholar, Brahmin. Very elaborately discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita and therefore not repeated in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But from the time of his initiation, his mood completely changed and his Leela completely changed. Where his mood was that of a devotee of the Lord, of the topmost excellence, even from the very beginning. He immediately wanted to leave for Vrindavan and be in the land of Krishna in Vrindavan. So in the middle of the night, without even speaking to his students, he left Gaya, heading on foot, calling Krishna's name. In the middle of the night, he heard a voice from the sky, a voice of demigods, reminding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the purpose of your incarnation is to deliver the fallen souls. You can go to Vrindavan later, but now you must return and give Krishna Prema to one and all. They're waiting for you in Navadvip, all of your devotees. So heeding that indication, he didn't go to Vrindavan and he returned to Navadvip. After returning to Navadvip, some time passed in his ecstatic kirtan pastimes in the house of Srivas Thakur, eventually leading the kirtan procession into the public and inundating the whole of Navadvip Dham in Prem Sankirtan. Then by the indication of Advaita Acharya, indirectly, he prepared himself to leave Navadvip on the pretext of his sannyas, Leela. And just after taking sannyas, he also had an indomitable desire to go to Vrindavan. Second. But by tricks of Lord Nityananda, instead of going to Vrindavan, he went to the house of Advaita Acharya, and being submissive to the will of his mother, Mother Sachi, he didn't go to Vrindavan to make that his residence. He went to Puri. Then again, after being in Puri and 2 years of his South Indian tour, again he wanted to go to Vrindavan. And the third attempt was also checked by Sanatana Goswami, who indicated to Lord Chaitanya, as he had gone in a northerly direction rather than to Vrindavan in a westerly direction, or northwesterly direction. Sanatana Goswami indicated to Lord Chaitanya that it would not be so good as a sadhu for you to go to Vrindavan with thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, like an elephant procession into the holy dham. Better you go alone, or at most with one person. So he went back to Puri. And then a fourth time he made his travel to Vrindavan. So when he came to Vrindavan, he would stay at a Kuragat, where it looks like we're going to be going there on Sunday, along with Krishna's Janmastan. A number of devotees made their request, can we go, can we go, can we go? So Sunday we may go to Krishna's Janmastan and then Akuragat. So it's quite a distance from Akuragat. But Lord Chaitanya would walk from Akuragat and come here to Imlital and chant all morning long up until early afternoon and take his bath in the Ganga. While chanting here at Imlital, a reverse Leela took place, where Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radha, was so absorbed in the mood of Srimati Radharani that his golden complexion turned blackish. Feeling separation from Krishna so intensely, his mood of love and separation from Krishna was of such intensity that his personal servant and the Sanodiya Brahmin who he had made the acquaintance of here in Braja both felt it's best if we can get Lord Chaitanya out of Vrindavan. Anything could happen in this intensified mood of love that he's experiencing. And so they made the suggestion to Lord Chaitanya, and their return journey back to Puri began. So the spiritual significance of this Leela, disclosing Lord Chaitanya's identity, exactly as Sarup Damodar had explained it. Krishna himself in the mood of Radha, and Radha's feelings of separation, intensifying that love, was exhibited here. So much so that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur desired that this would become one of the temples, the Gaudiya Math temples that he would establish. And so he acquired this land and established one of his 64 Gaudiya Math temples. We see here the Murti of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the founder of the Gaudiya Math. And so he is the presiding personality along with the deities that are newly installed. This was a very simple facility for a long, long time. And now the devotees, with their love and devotion to Bhaktisiddhanta, have made this very nice temple and have preserved the Imli tree outside. So great spiritual significance is in this place, and the mood of love of Krishna for Radha and Radha for Krishna in the mood of separation, Vipralamba Bhav. Very deep, very significant. spiritual holy place right here in the Prikrama Marg. So when we go out, we can circumambulate slowly the Imli tree and offer our prayers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that the attachment to Krishna in such elevated stages of feelings of separation from Krishna can somehow be appreciated by us, at least through his own Leela. How strong was his love for Krishna, we cannot even estimate. And they've done a very wonderful job with these beautiful illustrations of Lord Chaitanya's Leela and Rasa Leela, indicating the area where we are, the Seva Kunj area of Braja, and the pastime enacted by Krishna coming here, searching for Radha. Very deep, very moving. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhu ki Gambhira Bhakta Vrinda ki Thai Go Premanandi